Hello everybody and welcome to week 45 newsreel. Bogdan here, your host for the next couple of minutes, and without further ado, let's start with the quiz question for this week. So hear me out, prepare yourselves. To what country did Spain exported the most in 2020? And the options here are Italy, France or the United States. And the correct answer is France with almost $48.2 billion worth of exports. And guys, with this newly acquired information that will stay with you for the next couple of hours, let's move on and take a quick look at the Freightos index, which currently sits at $9,487, which is quite a large decrease from the previous week, as basically the peak season came to an end. Now, in terms of the sub-indexes, unfortunately, as usual, these are not updated at the time when I'm recording this video, but I suspect that the Trans-Pacific eastbound indexes fell quite a lot. Thus, we have this drop in the aggregate index. But anyways, it remains to be seen what will happen until the end of the year. And my personal guess is that we will see the overall index stabilize around 7.5 to $8,000 in the weeks to come. And with this being said, let's dive into the news for this week, which unfortunately are not that abundant, if you ask me, as I've struggled to pick a couple of them. So let's start with my first one, coming from HellenicShippingNews.com, which covers the newly implemented fine in the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach, as nearly 60,000 shipping containers are on a penalty clock for a $100 per day fine, as you remember. And here, unfortunately, from my point of view, the US consumer will be the one that will pay in the end for these fines, as the stakeholders involved are on totally different chapters of the same book. Their interests are not at all aligned, and if you ask me, they are sometimes divergent. And from my point of view, until everybody is on the same page, having the same interests and somehow pursuing a common strategy in terms of how to handle things on both the land and the maritime sides, this issue is going to be prolonged with ups and downs in terms of congestions. And yes, I understand that it's easy to be an armchair commentator thousands of miles away, but at the same time, I'm wondering why a problem that is addressed by the Federal Maritime Commission since 2015 is starting to be tackled only now. Why to be reactive when you can be proactive? And why is it because the stakeholders are not at all aligned? Is it because the lobbying groups? Is it because the United States is the only country in the world where the ocean carriers owns the chassis? Come on, sorry guys, but what is happening here is the result of a chaotic, chronic and structural lack of long-term strategy, if you ask me, in terms of infrastructure and international trade of goods policy. And do you want to tackle the congestion? Why don't you tackle first the unbalanced relation between the ocean carriers and the beneficial cargo owners? I don't know, it's just a thought. And again, I'm thousands of miles away from this. It's not necessarily my problem, but I can't help myself wondering why is this happening only now when the problems were raised and in front of everybody since 2015 and nobody tried to address them. But anyways, again, it's not my problem. I'll move on to my next news, and I have one coming from GRO Intelligence about the future pork imports of China, that according to the forecast done by the team at GRO Intelligence are to drop sharply in 2022, contrary to the USDA's forecast for higher pork imports. And with much of US pork exports channeled towards China, I really think that for those of you interested and most importantly working in this sector, this article is quite interesting and it's worth reading it, as there will be some major shifts in Chinese pork imports in the future, as China wants to reach 95% self-sufficiency in pork production, which is absolutely huge for the traditional pork exporters like Brazil and the United States. I won't cover more from this article. You have the link in the description below, and I'll move on to my next news coming from our friends from containernews.com about the strategy pursued by the Taiwanese shipping company Ming in terms of Newbuildings, which is very, very cautious, but nonetheless important if they want to keep their membership in the alliance. My guess is that they are very conservative in terms of acquisition and especially new build acquisition, and prefer to charter or I don't know, play the second-hand market when the price for second-hand container ships will drop, and they will drop from 2023, yes, onwards, as basically the new buildings will start to be operational for most of the shipping lines, and of course those shipping lines will have to reorganize some of their assets. At least this is what I could read between the lines here. I might have misread, so we'll wait together and see what the strategy of Ming will be in the next 2 to 3 years. Now moving on to my next news, which is related to the olive oil imports, and I have this article coming from oliveoiltimes.com, who reports some data coming from the International Olive Council. It seems that we have a council for just about everything, stating that the olive oil imports have significantly decreased during the 2020-2021 crop year, falling 8% compared with the previous season. In terms of big movers on the import side, Russian imports increased 12%, Canadian imports increased 6%, while the imports from Brazil increased with a modest 4%. On the negative side, there were significant drops reported by Japan, minus 16%, China with minus 6%, and the United States with minus 1%. Again, I won't cover more from this report. You have, as usual, the link in the description down below, so feel free to read the entire article. And I will move on to my last news, so bear with me just a little bit more, coming from maritimeexecutive.com, which covers the South Korean interests in exploring the feasibility of using Russia's North Sea route. And I don't know if you remember, but a couple of weeks ago I've said that this route is not new news, but I wanted to present this article as this route is starting to be more and more on shipping and terminal operators executives' agenda, as in early July this year, Dubai Port World somehow tested the waters, if you want, in Vladivostok, and now we have the South Koreans, and I'm wondering, guys, what do they know and we don't? But somehow reading all these news concerning the North Sea route, I'm guessing that, I don't know, in 5-10 years, the route will become an operational reality, whether we like it or not, implying the fact that the route will be ice-free by then, which I don't know how good is it for the environment, frankly. For sure, it's a topic that is worth to be followed up on, and as soon as I have new info, rest assured that I will share it with you. And that's it for today. Thank you all for watching and for being part of this small community. Don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe buttons. And as usual, until next time, keep your business safe. Thanks.